On this edition of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast, with Valentine's Day this week, a love letter of sorts to the game of baseball from us, and we continue our 1 through 9 Academy profiles with the Prairie Baseball Academy in Lethbridge. Welcome to another edition of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. I am Joe McFarland, and this week we are going to talk all things that we love about the great game of baseball. And joining over the phone happens to be my co-conspirator in Alberta Dugout Stories. His name, Ian Wilson. Ian, thanks for joining us on the phone.
Thank you for having me, as always.
You're the one that came up with this idea in the first place. So I'm going to ask you the very basic question. What do you love most about the game of baseball?
Well, that's tough to pinpoint it to one or two things, but there's so many. And, when you look outside your window, I know you're in a basement studio, so you can't.
I can still
But
see
I will
the
give you
drift.
an update. It's cold outside. It is freaking freezing outside, and it has been for the last week or two. It probably will be for the next week. But we get news today that pitchers and catchers are starting to report this week for spring training in baseball. And when you live in a winter country like we do, there is nothing more comforting than knowing that spring will happen at some point. Mm-hmm. And when it does, it will eventually bloom into summer. And when those months happen, we will have baseball. We'll have the crack of the bat. We'll have that beautiful sound of the ball thumping into the glove. And honestly, just being outside, being outdoors, and the thought of that warm sun hitting you as you drink a nice cold beverage of your choice, is there really any better spectator event that you can have than that?
What I love about the winter is that the creativity runs wild, and I don't know if you've seen the video, Ian, of the ice rink that is on top of a ball diamond and the infielder taking grounders on skates. I think that has been something that everybody has been sharing quite widely, and I think even you piped in on Twitter on that one.
Yeah, I did see that. I think it was out of Michigan, and I was like, yeah, that could be anywhere in Canada right now.
Meanwhile, in Alberta.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like it's. I think we can all relate to that. Although, even with that, I don't think I wanted to be out there taking ground balls on the ice like that. That was a little extreme, but you got to have fun with it too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, pitchers and catchers reporting this week, and before you know it, full spring training is going to be underway in Major League Baseball. But we've also got some baseball that is starting to fire up. College-wise, we have down in the States, a few teams have already started playing. This week, I know, is pretty big on a lot of calendars as well. And before we know it, the college baseball season here in Canada is going to start. I know we have Prairie Baseball Academy, as well as the UFC Dinos team, and the new Edmonton entry starting as well. So, like you said, before you know it, spring is right around the corner. Yeah,
looking forward to it. CCBC, that's the league you were just mentioning, kicks in, and then not long after that, we've got WCBL action. And one of the things that you and I were discussing before you hit record was just one of the things I love about the game of baseball as it relates to Alberta is just the history of the game. The first game that I think I can find a record of being played in the province was 1875 in Fort Macleod. So we're approaching 150 years of baseball history, and of course that culminated with Pioneer League in Alberta, which we were lucky enough to have a Blue Jays affiliate for 25 plus seasons in Medicine Hat, Lethbridge Mounties, Calgary had the Expos, and I believe the Cardinals as well, briefly for a season. And then after that, going to the Pacific Coast League and Edmonton Trappers and Calgary Cannons, again, blessing us with some very high caliber baseball for decades. And, we got to see recently Edgar Martinez go into the National Baseball Hall of Fame and be the first Calgary Cannon to do that. And, last week we saw Ryan Dempster named to the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. And he had spent some brief but important time in Calgary as well with the Cannons. And, and you and I, when we talk to people, you hear a lot about, I wish we had affiliated ball. I wish we had, Indie League ball, or the Vipers, or we had the Cracker Cats, or, kind of that assumption that was the be all end all of good baseball. And one of the things I love now is the more you go to these Western Canadian Baseball League games and other games around the province, you see that there's tons of talent here, and there's tons of great baseball to be seen here. And so usually when people lament that there's no affiliated baseball, I like to just tell them, you know what, you go down to Okotoks, you go to Athletic Park in Medicine Hat, you go in Lethbridge, you go to the games that are there and check them out, get to know some of the storylines, some of the players. It's a really good product. And if you really want affiliated ball and independent ball to return, you better support what's there to start with, because it is it's something that's really special and really good, and we've seen some talent come through here.
Mm-hmm. And I think especially with the changing dynamics of this province is you're seeing a lot more people leaning towards sports like baseball, or even soccer for that matter, because A, of the dynamics, but B, you look at the cost of getting into hockey, you look at the concussion issue around football, and a lot of parents are sitting there going, I want a different option. And I think that's what the draw of baseball has become now, and why this sport has become so popular in Alberta, and why you're seeing so many academies doing well, and you start to see so many more products coming out of this province that are doing really well. And I mean, all you need to do is look at some of the ratings ahead of the 2019 MLB draft, and 5 out of the top 14 or 15 prospects nationwide are hailing from this province, and a couple of others who are not from this province but train here. So I mean, that's a pretty substantial portion just in terms of, young high school talent. And then that talent is going to come back at some point to maybe play college ball with the Dogs or the Bulls or whatever the case may be. And that, again, it becomes that cyclical thing where all of a sudden it gets a little bit of notoriety, and then people are showing up. And I mean, it was really, really cool to go to, and I know you can speak to this when you went to Edmonton for the Prospects Banquet last year, but I went to the Dogs Banquet a couple of weeks ago, and just the excitement in the air around going to the ballpark again, going and being able to take part in something that they consider to be very special. I mean, that ballpark is filled every single summer night. There is something to behold with the sport, and whether it's the Western Canadian Baseball League, or I mean, we'll be talking a little bit about Powerline Baseball before you know it, and the Sunburst League. And there's a lot of different ball leagues and ball academies and ball to be had here in this province.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned those kind of gala. We're in that gala season where it's a lot of fundraising dinners and banquets for teams and academies, and we've kind of got to know the academies a lot during our recent 1 through 9 profiles. And I did go last year to the Prospects banquet, and again that was a freezing cold night too. So we're talking about how you get that that dichotomy of that freezing cold weather and it being February, but you also get that hope of warmer weather in baseball and getting to talk baseball and speak with these athletes and coaches that just know their craft so well. And it's another thing to be thankful for is the great training and coaching and mentorship that is available here. It's just one thing that makes me really excited about the sport now, but also the future of baseball in Alberta.
Another thing that I really love about this sport is the ongoing debates. And I know we have after Tom Brady goes and wins another Super Bowl, as everybody's talking about, whether he's the greatest athlete of all time or whether he's the greatest of all time as a quarterback or whatever the case may be. The discussion point that was had over this past weekend that you decided to chime in on, and I was kind of wondering if you had been into the spiced rum or whatever the case may have been, was Derek Jeter overrated? And I mean, I love the debates, whether it's speeding up the game, which is a very real discussion being had. You have the debate over whether or not to make the DH a part of the NL as well. You have all these different debates going on, even as we go into the pitchers and catchers and eventually spring training, is what is going on with all of the guys who have not been signed yet, whether it's Bryce Harper, Manny Machado, all these great names and no contracts to be had yet. So certainly no shortage of debates to be had when it comes to this sport.
Definitely not. And one thing I like about baseball debates is that the context seems a little more, I don't know, it seems a little more, it's not just your typical sports debate. It's not just, is this player the best player of all time, or is this player the best player of all time? And who's going to win X trophy this year? And there's nothing wrong with those debates. Those are fine. We've all kind of had them as sports fans, but I love getting into a good DH debate, and we saw a lot of that with Edgar Martinez being a candidate for the Hall of Fame, and him kind of being penalized for some portion of his eligibility, largely in part to the fact that he was a designated hitter, which is a position and has been a position in baseball for decades, dating back to the 70s. So, I come out on the DH where I kind of like it how it is, how you have one league that's like, nope, you gotta, if you're a pitcher, you're gonna hit, but in the other league, you can watch the DH kind of do their thing. And the steroid debates and Pete Rose, all those are just like, there's all kinds of context and great. I've got passionate opinions about those, but I have disagreed strongly with some people on that. But you can always kind of see the other side of that debate. And one that we saw last season with the Western Major Baseball League was the baseball park dimensions. We saw that come up in Brooks when Riley McDonald broke the home run record, and it definitely was reminiscent of Yankee Stadium and the size of that, that short porch and things like that. And even though that the pitching mound to the plate, that's always 60 feet 6 inches, and the difference, the measurements between the bases is always kind of the same. You do get that differing size in ballparks, and it makes for good debates. Larry Walker is another Hall of Fame one that's coming up with, he got, he benefited from playing in Colorado. And I'm like, well, all right, fine. But it makes it fun. It makes it interesting. And yeah, I mean, we were kind of joking last night about Derek Jeter and whether he's overrated. And I would say slightly, yeah, he is. He's a great ball player. But, if you break down some of the numbers and the fact that he was always protected in that lineup and played on some great teams, I think you can make a case that there's a little bit of overratedness to his game. But yeah, that doesn't mean he's not one heck of a ball player. And and the shift thing is another, the length of the game that you've brought up. One of the things I love about baseball is there is no clock. You cannot kind of run out the game. It's one thing that is unique to the sport. So every time they kind of come up with something to speed up the game, I do cringe a bit. But that's just me. So
I just like to be able to see them stop having to go to the mound every single batter to change pitchers. That's the one thing that I think drives the time up just a little bit, is you have these reliever specialists that come in, face one batter, and then they're out. And I get it. I mean, it's part of the strategy of the game, but at the same time, there's something to be said about pace of play. And again, when you're hovering over 3 hours long. That being said, I also saw an interesting tweet saying that the speed of the game actually hasn't increased much over the last decade or two. And so it's just a matter of the perception, right? And so do you change something just based off the perception, Or do you change it based off the fact that maybe the game isn't as popular with those who enjoy speedy games? I don't know what the answer is. I know one discussion that came up was just the fact that there are too many TV timeouts, as an example, right? Like you got your every half inning, you have 2.5 minutes or 3 minutes worth of TV commercial break. That's certainly weighing in on. That's probably part of the reason why the game is slower than it was 50 years ago. But again, that's what pays the piper at the end of the day, is the dollars and cents. So, I mean, you can have this discussion for eons, and you've got to be able to, I think, appreciate all sides.
Yeah, that's what makes it fun, right? You want to, some of these debates, you kind of know some of your friends, what their opinions are on them, and sometimes you like revisiting that and seeing if the opinions have changed or not. And with the length of the games, I always kind of look at playoffs. Does it bother you in the playoffs how long the games are? And usually my answer is no. But it's always fun to tear into those debates, and especially they do usually go better over a pint and in face to face rather than over Twitter. But it's one of the fun aspects of the game for sure.
Absolutely. On that note, we're going to look a little bit ahead to the spring that is coming up for not only baseball here in this province, but also in terms of what Alberta Dugout Stories has in store. What we're going to do next is we're going to go to our latest 1 through 9. It's all about the Prairie Baseball Academy in the province's south. I caught up with Todd Hubka recently. This is Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. Let's start off talking about the beginnings of PBA and who dreamed it up, where did it come from, and how long has it been going on, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it started in the early 90s. A guy by the name of Doug Jones kind of was the pursuer of a college program in Alberta or, Western Canada. And he started to mention it to a few other people, Dale Tillman, and who was a scout at the time, and Reed Spencer, who was a scout at the time. And they were just at a ball game, and, Doug brought it up and started talking. And back then, Coach Kubasek was a scout with the Cleveland Indians. And he heard them talking, about maybe starting up a program. So, they started talking about it, and the next weekend they all kind of met up again at another ballpark, and the talk continued, and 2 years later PBA was created.
It's funny how a connection can lead to a connection, which can lead to a connection, and that seems to be one of the maybe the mantras, I guess, of this program, is it based off of the longevity of it, is that it's been able to create a bit of an identity of its own in a market that isn't big on college baseball. It doesn't have that massive following that maybe some other areas do.
Yeah, you know what? Like I think that Canada is starving for baseball, or was at the time, and there was a lot of elite players back in the 80s that didn't end up going anywhere just because of because of where the region where they were from, and it was a great idea, and Lethbridge is probably the only place that it could be created east of the Rockies, just because of our Chinooks and everything. And we've had a number of talented kids come through here that without Prairie Baseball would have never had the opportunity to continue their baseball dreams. So it's been a whirlwind run here in the last 24 years, and it's our 25th year next year, big anniversary, and hopefully we keep going in the right direction.
Talk a little bit about some of that talent. I mean, an Andrew Case comes to mind, obviously, and a Lars Davis comes to mind, but give us a little bit of some of the highlights, I guess, that you've come across over your years, and certainly throughout the course of the last 24 years.
Lots of highlights. Holy moly. From the baseball aspect of it, the kids that go on from our program, to professional baseball, there's there's a pretty long list now of those kids, and you always remember them because it is baseball. But the other one that I'm proud of too is all the kids that have moved on from our program, whether it's to Division I, Division II NAI, or Division III. It's awesome to see those kids, after they're done their careers in baseball and start, their own careers in whatever that is. And, the list just keeps getting bigger and bigger of what Prairie Baseball Academy, has done for those kids. And, the highlights, I guess, are, any of the kids that get drafted into Major League Baseball, watching those kids put on a Team Canada jersey, or, I remember Shane Dawson throwing in Montreal a couple of years ago with the big league team. And, Andrew Case was there last year when Vladdy hit the walk-off home run, seeing him running out of the dugout. Lars Davis coaching at University of Florida now. He was just down at our banquet this last weekend and, had a great message to our players and all the people that attended. And, it just shows what PBA has done for, a lot of people in this country.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, that I always take away from these conversations around the academies, whether they be at the high school level or the college level, is the ability to connect with the community and give back in that way. Talk about the community and the ability to connect on a baseball level and to provide that level of entertainment and the buy-in that the community has.
Yeah, both institutions down here, the college and university, have been, big supporters of the Prairie Baseball Academy. And, through our scholarship program and the help that they do in that department, along with all the local businesses and just individuals too, that, PBA just keeps growing. And, that the help from the community, without the support of Lethbridge, the community, it's, it wouldn't be where it's at today. And a big shout out to the city of Lethbridge too for what they do for us. They got us off the ground and built this beautiful ballpark for us, Lloyd Nolan Yard, and without their help and direction, it's we wouldn't be where we're at today. Without this ballpark, PBA would not have the success that it has. So, the support of the community has been huge, and all the way down from in baseball, the Little League people in baseball, all the way up to the business professional people of the community. It's been awesome.
Walk us through a typical day for one of your athletes.
Well, it's, they're full-time students at either the university or the college, and, so their days start in the morning. We try to tell the kids to get done their classes by 1:00 in the afternoon. So, they can get over to the academy here and, get some early work in, and then practice for varsity in the springtime starts at 2:30 and goes till around 4:30, and then with conditioning after that to, around 5:30, 6:00. And a lot of these kids too, we run camps throughout the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And these kids are, helping us out with these camps too, assisting the young little leaguers in our community to develop and get better too. So, it's I tell them when I recruit them, it's you're here to get an education and you're here to play baseball, and your social life is, somewhere way back in the afterthought. And, the kids that take that approach are the ones that are successful in our baseball academy here.
One of the things, having known you over the last few years, feels like forever, but obviously with the family connections we have, but even beyond that is, I remember chatting with you at Athletic Park in Medicine Hat as you were coaching the Bulls, I believe, at the time. You've obviously had a major stamp on the baseball community in Southern Alberta, and I wonder from your standpoint, what does it mean to you to be able to give back and to be able to be a part of the PBA and be a part of just the overall Southern Alberta baseball landscape?
Yeah, Joe, geez, I think that was the first year I coached the Bulls. We had a conversation there in behind the grandstands. That's a few years ago.
I know. I was thinking about that. That was almost a decade ago now.
Oh, it's more than a decade there.
Oh, don't say that.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm gray in the beard and on top now too. So.
Oh no.
Yeah, but you know what? It's I feel that Prairie Baseball here in Lethbridge and in Southern Alberta, all the small communities around it, like the Little League teams here, whether it's minors or majors or intermediate or junior, have flourished here, and especially in the last 9 years, where the major team has basically every year won provincials and moved on to a national championship. And we've had 4 teams here represent Canada in World Series. And without Prairie Baseball, do I think Lethbridge would be where it's at today with the youth baseball? I don't think so. And and that's hats off to the whole staff of Prairie Baseball Academy, and also the Little League, to get behind us and help develop these kids into premier young baseball players. And I can't see that stopping either. I just think the growth of baseball in Southern Alberta, with all the other academies too, it's just going to keep growing.
Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about what your definition of success is for PBA.
Good question. I think success, there's a whole bunch of different ways you can approach that, but for academics, for sure, kids moving on, getting their degrees, that's probably the number one success out of our program, is these kids, becoming professionals in any, whatever field that they choose as they move on. That's a big success to us. That's something that we're very proud of. And I think that, the work ethic that the kids, when they come here, they think they know what that's what's going to be expected of them. But when they show up in September here as a freshman, and, all of a sudden, they're a little overwhelmed the first couple of weeks, and the amount of work that they have to put into the academics and the baseball. And, I think we just breed an individual that, is going to be successful. They, it's we kind of give them no choice. It's been that way since Coach Kubasek started this program 24 years ago, and we just keep building on it. Success, winning championships, that's very important too. Winning breeds winners, and whether it's on the baseball field or in their fields that they choose. And I think we do a great job of creating that winning atmosphere in both sport and business. So,
Todd, always a pleasure to be able to reconnect with you, and always great to chat a little bit about baseball. So thanks so much for the time and the insight into PBA.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. Anytime.
This is looking like a pretty awesome spring and summer here in Alberta when it comes to baseball, but it's also looking like it's going to be pretty awesome spring and summer when it comes to Alberta dugout stories. Ian Wilson joining us on the podcast this week as we talk a little bit about what we love about baseball, because it is, of course, the Valentine's Day. I was about to say Thanksgiving. That always works out well. The Valentine's Day week, and everybody's talking about love being in the air. I would just like it if this crispiness got out of the air and if we could actually start seeing some sort of semblance of spring. Ian, what are you looking forward to, or what have you loved so far, maybe, about what we've done with Alberta Dugout Stories?
Loved almost all of it. It's been great connecting with so many people in the baseball community in Alberta, across the province. And we've had fantastic feedback, which almost makes me nervous in a way, which is kind of weird. Like, you'd think it'd be good to hear some praise as frequently as we do, but I think that's the old journalist in you, where you get a little it seems too good to be true at times. But no, and just like the people that we've been able to interview, we've had I don't think I can even count on 2 fingers any negative experiences that we've had in doing interviews and encountering people. I think the only downside is we have so many stories to tell, we can't get to them all, but that's part of the fun as well. But no, and it's just I feel with Alberta Dugout Stories that we are shining a spotlight on some stories, some athletes, coaches, teams, programs that wouldn't necessarily have that in the mainstream media, and it's nice to be a part of that and doing that for some deserving people and programs and teams.
Without a doubt, one of the things that I've really loved is just the interaction, not with just the players and the coaches and the programs, but also the fans. I've found that the odd baseball fan, once they are able to put that face to the name, they go, oh, and even at the Dogs banquet a couple of weekends ago, just meeting a few people that I had no idea were into the baseball scene who were, oh, you're behind this, right? And like you said, the feedback has been phenomenal from that standpoint, and being able to give, again, that spotlight has been phenomenal. The other part that I'm really looking forward to this spring and summer is this will be the first spring and summer where we have a podcast attached to Alberta Dugout Stories as well. So whether or not we increase the frequency of this or if we just keep it on a weekly basis is still up for discussion. I mean, I don't know how much free time I'm going to have in the next little while. I've got a wedding to pay for and that kind of thing to worry about. And that's first and foremost on my mind. But certainly during the summer, we might be able to reopen that discussion. And I think the other thing, too, is looking ahead to the summer is just continuing to work with all the different programs and all the different teams to bring some of the stories that we haven't been able to bring over the last couple of years. I mean, even we've talked about Powerline and Sunburst and some of the other leagues, and even talking about some of the smaller leagues. One of the things that I've thought about is, what if we took a road trip around this province and took photos and talked to people who were involved in, midget baseball or bantam or novice or any of the other levels that are, or I guess they've all changed names now, the 12U and 15U and all the different programs on that front. And not only that, but maybe shed some light on some of the things that are happening with some of the major tournaments that are coming through this province as well. I mean, there's just no shortage of things for us to talk about.
No, and you don't have to do much convincing to talk me into a road trip. I'm down with that, especially one that has a diamond at the end of it. That sounds like a good time to me, and there's just so much to look forward to as well. Like at the major league level, I got one of my wishes this past year, seeing Edgar get inducted or named to the Hall of Fame. He's got his induction coming up this summer. Mike Soroka, we get to see what he's got in store for us, which is super exciting. He's going to be in the mix for that fifth rotation spot in Atlanta. So really looking forward to that, and maybe hopefully getting people together and watching some Braves games on TV and again, just talking baseball with them and seeing how Mike does. So that's a bit of a rallying thing as well. That's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. On that note, we're going to wrap this episode of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast, up. Again, a big thanks to Ian Wilson for joining us. A big thanks to Todd Hubka over at Prairie Baseball Academy for joining us for the latest 1 through 9. If you have a story idea that you'd like to see us shed some light on, by all means, drop us an email. albertadugoutstories@gmail.com is the place to go there. You can also check us out on any of the social media platforms. As I always say during the course of these podcasts, if you don't mind, head on over to wherever you get your favorite podcasts and give us a rating and review, because doing that will help spread the word about Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. Ian, thanks so much for joining us for the podcast, and looking forward to texting you a little bit more.
Yeah, and we've got slow pitch season coming up too, which on a personal level, that's baseball at our speed, and I can't wait for that.
That is the best time of year for sure. I think May 1st is our opening day, so we might have to include that as part of our coverage on the podcast. Again, thanks to Ian, thanks to Todd, and thanks to you for listening. This has been another edition of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast.